Good evening, everyone. Artemis may be behind us with a safe return, so what's next? Hawkeye's revenue jumped 74% last year, according to its IPO filing. Blue Origin targets April 16th, that's just this coming Thursday, for its next New Glenn flight. And he also announced that oxygen has been extracted from moon dust for the first time. That sounds vaguely important. We'll talk about that. Space Force has asked 14 firms to compete to build recon satellites. Amazon Leo is expected to launch mid-year, and they promise to be cheaper than Starlink. Rocket Lab not only completed their market offering, and they got a new contract. And Astroscale reveals the world's first commercial multi-orbit satellite inspection mission. Interesting. What are they going to do with that? All that, and our new summer intern is coming on to interview us. Check that out. It's going to be fun. From the news desk at the Center for Space Commerce and Finance, my name is Thomas Andrew Olson, and this is The Unknown Quantity. And of course, as most of you know, this program is brought to you by the Center for Space Commerce and Finance. And what do? We champion and strengthen emerging space startups and space adjacent enterprises worldwide through advisory, access, and advocacy. Our pitch events, world-class boot camps, fortify startups to be better investor ready. A lot of our work, especially this podcast, is supported by listeners and fans like you. So just go to cscf.space/support and click that plain as day donate button. The little in the tip jar each month makes a big difference. Don't forget to like and subscribe and tell your friends. Speaking of friends, my oldest space friend, Michael Lane, who was just out burning a bush, is here with me. Come on in, Michael.
Hey,
how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right.
It's a beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest. It was raining a lot yesterday, but kind of gorgeous today. So you can kind of see the sun is like making its way up. Up my screen.
That's all. It was a nice day here too. Had a lot of running around to do today, but it's all good.
Yeah.
Got some rest a little bit later. I still got a crap ton of stuff to do. I'm behind on a couple of things. One's that's vaguely important.
Yeah.
I'll get that done.
It's gonna be a late night, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Morty's here. Hi, Morty. You were just here. Hi again. Veronica Ann's with us. Oh, good evening, my dear.
Joe, thanks
for Trails with us.
Love it. Yep. Thanks, y'all.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Pardon me. Okay. Yeah. Actually, I was kind of wondering how our show is going to be today because there's so many people out in Colorado for symposium today and this whole week really. Yeah. I imagine we'll have quite a bit of news to catch up with on Thursday. Some stuff is already starting to showcase. They're putting out new pictures, new slides, new video, various things they're working on. So kind of exciting. It's kind of exciting time to be in space right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's just an exciting time in general to be in space. We were happy to see that Artemis came down safely and everybody's fine. And I guess the heat shield looked a little beat up.
It did.
Even more than usual.
I did wonder about that. Eric Berger sent a note with a picture. He's the guy who runs the space channel for Ars Technica. And he had this great big picture of Orion. And there's like a piece that looks like was missing from the heat shield, and people were calling and asking questions. So he posted it, and Jared Isaacman said it's a normal thing. We've already seen it. We saw it in testing. The heat ablation is not kind of perfect, and so that was a spot that didn't get as much heat as other places. So it was a little surprising, and yeah, that capsule definitely looked a little bit beat up. So
Yeah.
Wonder if
Yeah.
they'll.
Of course,
Who we don't know that stuff, right?
of course, Babylon B put out a joke that said, "You know what? That toilet was still broken. Those guys had to go really bad, so they shifted their trajectory so they could land near a Buc-ee's."
Oh, nice.
Well, if that's all you have to joke about, I mean,
right? If that's the worst thing, right?
It went pretty well. I gotta tell you, but it has opened the floodgates a little bit because, well, now that that's kind of out of the news cycle in a minor way, what's coming up? There was in the news they found a thing called Science. It's a BBC Science Focus. They were saying, okay, well, how about checking this out? Excuse me, 6 mind-blowing space missions now set to launch this year.
Yeah.
And so starts off with China's Chang'e 7.
Yep.
And so lunar water, deep craters, that kind of thing. They're going to land on the rim of Shackleton Crater, right next to the South Pole, and then it's going to deploy a rover. And so they're moving on. They're going down their path, just a very steady pace, and haven't changed up anything.
No.
And then the Nancy Grace Space Telescope is going to launch sometime after September. It's similar to Hubble, has the same resolution, etc., but it views an area of the sky 100 times larger than Hubble does. And so they're going to use that to cover a vast area of the skies with remarkable speed. And it's only a 5-year mission, but it's 3 sky surveys that they're doing. They're looking at the center of the Milky Way, and then they're looking out into the wider universe. Then the next thing coming up, ESA is launching something they call Plato, interestingly, Planetary Transits and Oscillations of Stars. They use 26 cameras, and they're going to scan the skies looking for just tiny dips in the star's brightness created when a planet passes in front of it.
Right.
And so we're going to be looking for more exoplanets. We've already found like 6,000 or something. And they're going to hoping they'll find another 500 this year. There's going to be JAXA is launching a mission. It's going to hoping to land on one of the Martian moons.
Yep.
And maybe even bring a piece of it back. So Mars sample return may be kind of DOA right now, but FOMOS or DEMOS sample return might be a reality.
I would love to see that. That one,
yes,
that one's one that's pretty exciting to me. I'm not a Martian, but I'm a lunatic. But still, I have hopes for that one.
Yeah, and so I guess a while back, we sent something out to kind of to the DART mission, smacked into an asteroid, and changed its orbit around its larger partner asteroid by 32 minutes. Well, they're sending something now called Hera. It wants to go back to the same asteroid and look at the damage.
Oh, I had not heard about this one before.
Yeah,
that's pretty neat.
Smaller CubeSats, which will determine what the asteroid's made of and map the internal structure, find out as much about it. And then there's something, I don't know who's doing this. It's called, it's built by ESA. It's called Bepi Colombo. That's an exotic name. But it's going to go to Mercury after an 8-year journey. In November of this year, Bepi Colombo arrives at Mercury after an 8-year trip. That's because the mission's a double whammy, because shortly after arriving, the craft will split into 2 separate science orbiters. This thing's big. It's going to map the planet's surface, study any exosphere that might be there, etc. And then JAXA's Mercury magnetospheric orbiter will examine the planet's magnetic field to gain a better understanding, not just the solar system, but the thousands of known exoplanets, sun-hugging Mercury. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And, that's something we can look forward to this year. Meanwhile,
I
NASA
only
claimed,
knew about 3 of these, so that was
yeah,
like I've heard the names, I guess, but I didn't know any of this was happening this year.
yeah, and this is all
Except for
ESA and
China.
JAXA stuff. We haven't
Yeah,
even talked about what's going on
yeah,
here.
yeah.
There's something from AP put out today. It says NASA already has the next Artemis flight in its sights following their triumphant moon flyby. And I've already seen a picture. Yes, the Artemis 3 booster is already heading somewhere, And so here we are. They say the next flight director Rick Henfling said the next mission is in fact right around the corner. So, but it's added to the docket literally for next year, and so it's going to dock their Orion capsule with a lunar lander or maybe 2 in orbit. Both, of course, SpaceX and Blue Origin are racing to have their company's lander be ready first.
Yeah,
and they're vying for the all important Artemis 4 moon landing, in a couple of years. And so this is going to be a big test and a big competition. Who can do better? And so that's this Artemis 3, even though it's not going to the moon anymore, it's just an all Earth orbital thing. But it's probably one of the most important missions that we could do.
Yeah,
coming up.
Yeah, necessary tests, necessary development.
Absolutely. Okay.
Shout out to some of the other guys here. Dr. Cathari, thanks for showing here.
Hey.
Dallas Beanhoff, always great to see you guys. Wes, thanks a lot. Glad you all are here. It's a good day.
Yeah. And Wes. Yeah. Joe says Bucky's for the win. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. We got a good crew tonight. Great. It's going to be fun. Now, do you know of a firm called Hawkeye?
Yeah.
Hawkeye 360.
They are really involved with some of the military side of space.
Yep.
Gosh, they came to a conference back when everything was digital, so I guess it had to have been 2020 or 2021.
Okay.
And they're heads down, nose to the grindstone folks that were really trying to build enduring relationships with the military to provide Overwatch. And I hadn't heard from them in 4 years, something like that. And then all of a sudden they're like, and we're going public because
and the IPO was just filed like last Friday.
Yeah.
And it showed that their revenue actually jumped 74% last year.
Yeah. That's
so
huge.
I'd say it's time. Yeah.
Well, okay, but I think this is just natural tailwinds off of what's happening with SpaceX, because their revenues are only, and I say that term loosely, it's only 117 million compared to 67 million from last year. So great, good for you guys for adding $50 million to your revenue.
Right.
But
note that they did not say how much the IPO is going to be.
Right. Yep. Yeah. But I mean, this feels like that rising tide element with SpaceX is just pulling other people along. We said that last week and the week before and the week before that. So this just feels like proof of that.
Sean just said they're hoping for a SpaceX bump for bargain shoppers.
Hell yeah. Right. No, I don't, it would not surprise me if other people don't announce soon too that are actually in better position, right? $100 million in revenue is kind of table stakes at this point. Like I was a little surprised. I was a little surprised that they went in based off of this. So that they're going to have some interesting documents to showcase.
Well, I would like that kind of revenue right now. I think that would.
Yeah.
So
I
would not throw that kind of revenue out of bed for eating crackers. I just wouldn't do it. Blue Origin is targeting just this Thursday for the Flight 3 of New Glenn. So they're getting that ready literally right now while we're talking.
Yeah.
And it's going from out of Canaveral. So
yeah, they're one of my favorite space companies. So
I know
they're right around the corner. I think the world needs. I think SpaceX needs more real competition, and this is hopefully a step in the right direction. So
yeah.
We might have some cool news on Thursday. I'm hoping.
Yeah, it would be. That would be cool. So it may just be split between Space Symposium and that.
Yep.
Yep. So the next thing is also a Blue Origin story. It's out of the Telegraph. They're claiming, BO Origin is claiming it has developed a reactor that can release breathable air from lunar soil.
Yeah.
And I can't, go any further because everyone should subscribe.
They've been working on this for a while. Their Blue Alchemist system, they earned something like $30 million in revenue from NASA as a research contract, but it's actually working now. So that's kind of exciting. Hopefully we'll get something more out of that at the that symposium. Yeah, I think that one's, as you said earlier, vaguely important, right? Knowing how to pull oxygen off of the land in situ and use it, that could be a big deal.
It's going to be huge. It's going to be huge.
I'm going to just echo Joe's comment in the chat here. If Blue Origin can increase cadence and Stoke comes online, we might have some real competition. I was having exactly this conversation on Saturday night at Yuri's Night. Did anybody go to Yuri's Night? It was great here in Seattle. Shout out to the Seattle folks that were repping that. But yeah, I had almost exactly that conversation because Stoke and Blue were out in force at Yuri's Night this week. So
if I was going to go to a Yuri's Night, I have to go way back down below the Space Coast again to find a party. I'm sure because I'm sure at KSC they were doing something, or someplace like that. That's a long drive. Right. That's just a long thing. And I just did that, a week ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pepsi and Coke. Yeah. That's funny. Okay. Next up, and we're doing well on time. I guess 3 months ago, Space Force put out an RFP request. They wanted more maneuverable reconnaissance satellites that can quickly change orbits, which they're now euphemistically calling dynamic space operations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Basically, it's a satellite with a gas tank that be refueled in orbit and ensure mobility as Spacecom needs to respond to threats from adversaries. And so they're planning on-ramps to add new companies to the contract and use it as a mechanism. They have selected 14 firms to participate right now for this Andromeda program. They have 1.3 billion or something for these programs. And it's a big increase over last year, but it's not clear if Andromeda is included in the total. But the 14 firms selected very, very quickly, and you can also scroll it down. Andrew Industries, Astrana Space Tech, BAE Systems, General Atomics, Electromagnetic Systems, Intuitive Machines, you've heard of some of these, L3 Harris, Lockheed Martin, Millennium Space System, Northrop Grumman, Quantum Space, Redwire, Sierra Space, True Anomaly, and Turion Space. So more than half of these guys I've heard of.
Yep.
A lot.
Yep.
And so it'll be, that should be an interesting competition down the road. I mean, they were so quick in getting those numbers in after just putting out the RFP 3 months ago. I almost am expecting a result from somebody by September,
It's not a lot of money, and all of these companies are very well positioned to do this work. I was a little surprised that Orbit Fab was not on that list.
I know,
but these numbers are not very big numbers, right? It was only if I'm $100,000 total $1.4 million of initial funding cut between 14 companies. So a lot of companies probably did not want to bid on that. And let's face it, Orbit Fab is way farther along than that. So yeah.
Okay. Let's see. We're doing great on time. I love this.
Yeah.
Amazon Leo is going to launch mid-year, and they're hinting, at least in the annual letter to shareholders, that they're going to focus on enterprise users first, but they hint at a lower price than Starlink. So we'll see. It's officially scheduled to launch mid-year, so July, maybe June, July.
Mm-hmm.
They already have meaningful revenue commitments from enterprises and governments. So they've made deals with Delta and JetBlue and maybe some others. Of course, they're facing an uphill battle against Starlink, but they're going to offer faster speeds, especially for uploads, after they launched a private beta focused on gigabit speeds. So we'll see. I think they're going to go where the customers are at first to do this. So, companies like mine, Avialto, I don't think will have to be concerned about that. They're not ready to go that low in price. Right. And we're ready to do that and take it on. So it's nice to see a lot of players in the game, and there's plenty of room for everybody at this stage. So 2 billion people that aren't served.
Right. So gigantic market. They're aiming for 3,200 satellites.
Yeah. Which is a third what
SpaceX has right now.
Right now.
Yeah. So that kind of they only have 240 up there right now, which, quote, isn't likely enough to provide global robust coverage. So that's where they are today.
No, it isn't. People in those 6,000 Indonesian islands are not going to be able to afford it. They're just not going to go there.
Nope.
But I know some people will have a solution for that. So we'll get it going soon. Okay. One more, two more. There's 3 more, but they're real quick. Rocket Lab got a twofer. They completed their market offering. They completed what they call the at the market offering, equity offering program, so the ATM program. And they're selling shares, common stock, having an aggregate offering price of up to $1 billion. They sold an aggregate of about 6.7 million under that at the market transaction for gross proceeds before, and they made about 474 million off of that. And they're going to do it again, I guess. They've sold another aggregate of another 7.4 million of common stock, and so they've brought a bunch of money in, but which is great for them. But on top of that, the same day we're seeing a report that Rocket Lab won a contract for 3 more IQPS launches from the Japanese radar satellite company, and they're going to launch their Electron rockets. So a good day for Rocket Lab.
Yeah.
And finally, and this is something I haven't seen. It's another thing out of Japan. It's called Astroscale Japan, which I haven't heard from much. But they're a leader in satellite servicing. They're unveiling a concept of operations, what they call the ISSA J1 mission, scheduled for launch next year, which its whole job is to inspect 2 retired Japanese satellites in orbit. They're going to remove or 2 and inspect 2 satellites. So they're trying to pioneer something called on-orbit inspection,
right?
And provides critical insight into the condition of satellites that simply cannot be obtained from the ground. And they can inspect multiple objects in different orbits in a single mission.
That's a direct copycat to an American company called Scale that's been out for Scout. They've been doing that for about 3 years. I haven't heard much about them in the last year or so. Their CEO stepped down and somebody else took control of it. I'm not connected on their LinkedIn, so I don't know I don't know where Scout is now, but that's
Right.
that's a market that's real.
Interestingly, it's being developed under Japan's Small Business Innovation Research Program. Their version of SBIR.
Yep. Yeah. Cool stuff.
And that's what I've got for the news.
All right.
And so not huge amounts, but kind of interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. And so it's 8:25. Hey, Michael, you know this guy. How would you like to introduce our guest today?
I will. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to bring him on here. Dun, dun, dun. Hey, Joseph. How's things?
Guys, how are you?
Good. So, by way of just quick introduction, we're doing something a little bit different today with today's show. Joseph contacted me the end of last year, beginning of this year, wanting to be an intern at Liftport. So we had other candidates. We interviewed him. We decided to pick him. So congrats. He's going to be our intern this summer. He'll be here for about 10, not quite 11 weeks or so, starting at the end of May. So that was good. Happy about that. And then about 2 weeks ago, he sent me a message asking some questions about money and space. He had an assignment to do. I'll let you tell your side of that story. And I'm like, you know what? That's a really cool thing. Let's bring you onto the show and ask those questions live. So, yeah. Joseph, why don't you tell us a little bit about your origin story? Who are you? Why are you interested in space? What are you doing? What do you want to be doing? Start there.
Absolutely. So I'm Joseph. I'm from Olympia, Washington originally, and I'm actually out going for a mechanical engineering degree at Penn State. So a little bit of a drive to get here daily, but we make it work.
Yeah.
So I got assigned a project to find a problem that's in my fields. I guess, like just a problem that's in my field. And so I really decided that I wanted to do space, and that's where I am, I guess. I started off really thinking about aerospace, and I thought that could be a cool place to go into, but ultimately I ended up here, and I'm really excited to go on for that. So I guess a few questions that I really had were, how does a company have a startup and actually get money and funding? I think that's really hard if you don't just have a rich owner. So that's a few questions that I have for you guys here today.
Sure. Sean, Tom, you want to take it or you want to jump
Well, okay. Look, I mean, there's almost as many ways to get initial funding as there are companies seeking it, because they've proven over and over again there is no end to creativity in trying to get something. Obviously, the first obvious thing, you better have a very clear idea on what you want to do, and do your homework up front. And with AI, there's no excuse. You can figure out right away if your concept has some legs, if anyone else is doing it, and if so, how well they're doing it. If you have some, building a better way to do something, then that's always important. There's a couple ways initially to get in there. First, it's something we always call the friends, fools, and family round, where you're getting, once you've kind of got your idea kind of gelled, you go to folks that you know. It could be an uncle who has a few bucks. It could be friends of the family. It could be friends. It could be other people that might want to put in a little bit. It doesn't have to be much, because all you're raising it for is to get yourself started, like 5,000-10,000 maybe. You're trying to because you want to maybe start your corporate. It just gets the basics started. Get your corporate entity started. You build a website. You do things like that. And it doesn't cost a lot. And sometimes there are folks that around you might be willing to pitch in on that. Another way to get some of that early stage capital is to really look for competitions. There's always a competition that's going on somewhere. They could be at Rice University. They do a big one every year. But there is something was done at University of Central Florida, for example, just recently. And there was some cash involved, and there are also other types of things that you can win participating in these competitions. You usually get to do a 3 to 8 minute pitch, and some people who actually know something ask you some questions, and then they pick a winner. And sometimes as many as 3 or 4 winners can come out of that. And they all walk, a lot of people walk away with something that helps get things started. But it also helps you get your name out there and get some visibility. And visibility can lead to traction, because the people you meet in the audience at those events sometimes are more important to you than winning the event. That has happened in my world a number of times. We've had lots of different pitch competitions. We've awarded well over $400,000 to a lot of deserving companies over the years. And some of them, they didn't win a prize, but they met somebody in the audience who approached them, and they talked and they made a deal, and they ended up getting even better funding. One of our poster kids was a company called Spire from 2012. Esper Satellite Imagery in Australia, and there's a whole bunch of them. Yeah. And so that's something to get into. As Morty says, money and value are different things. Create and find value, and you're going to find people to fund it for you.
I was going to echo that a little bit. Silicon Valley talks about the minimum viable product. What's the smallest thing that you can build as a client? What will they pay for? And then find a client. This industry is, I think, I'm going to be blunt about it. I think it's kind of corrupted by the idea of letters of intent, where people, a company that's not worth $2 million promises a company $1 billion worth of product, and that company does a reciprocal handshake. They're also not worth $2 million, but they offer $1 billion worth of product. To me, that borders on fraud, because both of those companies are now making announcements. We have $1 billion client. Well, do you really? So this industry has a lot of that, and I'm very much against that philosophy. But the venture capitalists kind of forced that model on this industry, and I do think that that's a problem. So I would focus on a if there's a way that you can productize something, anything at the earliest days where you can get a client who writes you a check, that is definitely the most interesting thing you can do.
I will take a purchase order over an LOI any day.
Right. I'll take a purchase order for 1/100th of the price if it's cash that I can spend now. Sean?
I want to step out for just a second, because if you're developing a product, and if you're convinced that this is something the industry needs and the industry doesn't, you're going to have to tell your story, and you're going to have to convince people. All right. So that's, and talking about Michael, he has had to do that. And he still does it, where he has to convince people that this is the story that for what he's developing is needed. And so you have to be willing to go out there and lay it on the line sometimes. And that's the nature of business. And so if you find something compelling to you that, hey, the industry really needs this, but the industry is not paying attention, you're going to have to keep on preaching and talking that till they start paying attention. And you'll eventually win people around slowly but surely. But be persistent. If you think this is the right thing and nobody's listening, keep on talking till they start listening. So it's a very simplistic idea for me to come back, because I can go into detail of the business side and all that, but sometimes it's better to step back and just let's talk about the fundamentals and repeat the fundamentals over and over again.
That's great. You guys touched on actually a few of my questions that I have here coming up. I kind of wanted to have each question build off of each other, just kind of in an organized manner. So I guess my first question to you is, companies, when they're first starting up, they have money to get from the first area kind of to the second area, kind of getting from one point to another, and then maybe they'll need to get more funding. How does an actual company decide or figure out or determine just how much money that they need to get to the next point?
I'm doing that right now. Like, literally, that was an assignment I gave to my team Thursday last week. We're about to start a capital raise. It'll be our first real one ever. I'm both excited and nervous about it. And I'll just tell you what I told the folks. If we're gonna keep to our 1,000-day schedule, of which we've burned already over 90 days, we're gonna have money in the door by this time next year, and not just a little bit of money, but a lot of money by this time next year. So the first things that we're doing is scouting law firms, trying to determine who is going to be our representative counsel, because getting that stuff wrong is expensive and a very big problem. So that's the very first step that we took, and then it's down to budget. So what we talked about on Thursday and Friday last week was, if our target is $20 million, we're not going to get that on day one. That's, nobody just writes you a $20 million check. So what's the step before that? Well, for us, it's $5 million, but nobody just writes you a $5 million check either, unless you're an AI company, and that's a whole different story. But for us, nobody's going to write us a $5 million check just right off the bat. So then what's the step below that? For us, it's $500,000. So what I required for my team recently was a very specific budget that identifies not just the money, how much we're going to spend, but more importantly, what are the milestones and what are you trying to accomplish with that? Stage one, 500,000, stage two, 5 million, stage three, 20 million. What are the milestones and how are you going to spend the money? That's the problem that we're working on right now.
And I want to follow up with them on that, because when you do milestones, certain milestones are fixed. Some milestones you can stretch, and some milestones, if you need to speed up the time, you can collapse. So you have to figure those out too.
I'll add to that. We're either going to raise the money quickly or it's going to be a real struggle and we're going to blow our deadlines. So I'm asking for a 3-month budget that burns through the capital quickly to accomplish the tasks quickly. And I'm also asking for a 15-month budget where it's not going the way we want it to, and we still got to stay in business. How do we stretch that while we hit some of our milestones? So those milestones change depending on the timing and horizon.
I'll give you a hint too. Part of your budget is going to be, how do we do this next part, raise this next funding?
Right.
You have to figure that. Always include that.
Yeah.
Now, while you're thinking about this, there's also the other kind of little side thing, and Veronica sort of brings it up. She says investors don't fund space exploration, quote unquote, which makes sense. They fund specific scalable services. Well, the other thing, angel investors in particular, and then some VCs, the one thing they fund most is the team. And so they're funding people. They're funding technologies, but they're really funding people that have demonstrated a skill at fulfilling a certain business vision. And so it's not just you, Mr. Startup Founder. You've got to get people around you, some of whom may be smarter than you are at certain things that you need to get done. You do not want to be the smartest person in the room at your firm. You really don't want to be.
Right.
Been there. It's not pretty.
I'm not.
Yeah. I wasn't going to say anything.
I'll say it.
I was.
I
Look,
don't
man,
know why
I
you're
wasn't
saying that
saying
with me.
anything.
Well, Tom, you guys are raising money too. So what
yeah.
does that look like for y'all?
Well, right now we're at this point where we're still looking at it's a 40. I'll just put it out there. It's a $40 million Series A.
Mhm.
It's a telecom play. There's some space elements to it, but it's really a telecom play. We're using satellite technology without having a satellite. It's just a platform that floats up at about 85,000 feet and provides Wi-Fi and mobile backhaul. Right now, that's what we're working on now, is closing that $40 million Series A. This has been 9 years in coming.
Right. Yeah.
To get to this, and we've already spent almost 12 million of other people's money getting to this point. It took us years to get this, and we worked up to it, and we did the R&D. We got the due diligence done, and so we got like 4 patents now. It's like we know what we're building, and we know how we're building it, and we're just ready now, just raising the money to build the factory. So that's the next milestone. We're going to take our experimental stuff, finish a little bit of experimentation just to make sure everything works the way we say it does, pack it off, send it to our first customer country, which is Malaysia, and then show it to them. Because Malaysia, that part of South Asia, most of Asia, is basically like Missouri. They're the show me state. And so you show them, and then they show up with checkbooks and desire to work with you. So it's going to be worth it to us. And we're just inches from the goal line. So that's kind of where we're at, because it's going to be, this thing hits, it's going to be life-changing for us.
Yeah.
And I'm not getting any younger. So, hey, I want to get this done.
And just think of this terms, whenever you develop your technology, you got a vision where it comes from development into scaling. And you got to know that marker when it tip overs from development into scaling, because that's 2 different animals. Developing is different than scaling. And you have to definitely know where that marker is and plan around it.
Oh, that's a lot of information. Thank you guys. That was great. You guys did touch again on a lot of questions that I had. So let me move forward here a little bit.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. What are the constraints and issues with getting grants from, let's say, NASA, or I'm sure you guys know of the sites such as like SAM.gov, grants.gov, or even just military contracts? And do they actually help small companies, or do they hinder any small companies? Do they hurt the development while still providing you guys money, or how does that work?
I'm terrible at this. Terrible. Like the very, very worst that I know in my industry. I am the worst that I know in my industry at this topic. One of the folks on the call in the chat, shout out to Dallas, because Beanhoff pulled in billions for his prior employer at Boeing. So I wish he was on the call. Dallas, if you want to write some notes up, that would be great. But I am particularly bad at this, although I am a very big believer, and I've gone up to bat at least 20 or 25 times trying to get government funding, because I believe that public-private partnership is great. You were watching the news earlier. That first company that we talked about, Hawkeye, they only have one client. It's the U.S. government. I mean, they probably have others, but they only have one primary government. They only have one primary client as the U.S. government, and at $100 million, it's enough to take them public. So definitely you can play that game and succeed in it in a big way. Blue Origin doesn't play that game very much. They have that $30 million contract with Blue Alchemist, but SpaceX is SpaceX only because they played the government contract game
Perfectly.
So SpaceX is SpaceX because they understood those rules. They were the first to understand those rules in a significant way. So, it can be, it is a total game changer if you can figure it out.
Yeah, because if you haven't done it quite that well, the other thing that makes it work is I can speak from experience to this is to have the right friends. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. When we got those magic years, when we got the grants from NASA Ames and
and
the portal, the space portal there, that was run by Pete Warden. Pete Warden was going to our conferences. He loved us. He loved the things we were doing, and he wanted to help fund it a little more. And so we had an experimental program basically for like 3 years. And we got big grants every year through the Ames portal because the right people were running the Ames portal and fought to have that, create that grant program. Once Pete Warden was retired out and some of the other leadership changed hands, those philosophies changed as well. And so, we're just looking for the right. I'm talking to people right now. Actually, we're looking for the right opportunity next time they do a grant. The type of grant proposal that we could fit in. We're ready to go in and apply for it, but just they're few and far between for us, and they haven't really shown us much. And so it's hard. It's hard to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to put Dallas's comments on the screen because he knows a bit more about this topic than anybody I know. The concerns with SBIRs, SCTRs, and other government contractors is the time factor. They are too slow for a fast-moving market area. Also, it is easy to get trapped into seeking the next topic, even if it is outside your business plan. All of that is true. By the way, I will point out that the SBIR program was closed for most of the last 6 months. It is about to reopen, but it was a program that there was a lot of kind of political heat around, and they're reinstating it with some new rules. So the SBIR program that we're all familiar with is not the one that's going to restart in a matter of weeks. So hopefully some of the rules will change.
Yeah, that is another thing. They will change the rules on you and change the requirements. And sometimes they'll do it midstream.
Right.
When we were first looking to get FAA approvals for the stuff we were doing years ago, right at that same year, they decided they were going to change up all the bureaucracy and all the rulemaking regarding drones. And when they wanted to classify us as a drone and regulate us accordingly, no, we're not a drone, we're an airship. And it does this, that, and the other thing. And so it took forever. And I became a real pro at navigating the new rule structure for FAA for, uncrewed floating craft. I still said I expected to get, but I don't regret having it at this point in case we have to go through that process again.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to move on to my last two questions. I'm going to combine them here. So how long generally would it take for a small company to get a viable amount of money to actually put towards their situation? And I've also done some research, and there are consulting companies that typically are kind of out there to try and help companies. And I was wondering, for a small company, is that actually helpful at that stage, or do they kind of just suck more money out of you than you get in return?
Depends.
Yeah, that's a case by case situation.
Yeah, it depends on what they're going to expect in return.
Yeah,
and because what can happen is that they expect equity, then they might actually take over and run your company that you're trying to build because they're trying to make their money back or for the time they invested. But I'm not saying every one of them, but you have to really do your homework on them.
We're lucky that we've got two very good lift port contractors on this call. Wes is doing some legal stuff that we're looking into and investigating, and Joe is building out our satellite. Let me tell you, both of these guys are super capable, so shout out to y'all, gentlemen. Appreciate it. But also, they're not nickel and diming us to death. They are in it for the long haul, and they want to be partners with our big idea. But also, I will throw some other people under a bus that I'm not going to name, but some people are awful in this industry. Some people,
You think?
you put your hand out for a handshake, and you better count your fingers when you come back, because
That's true.
you might not. Yeah, there are some bad people in this industry, and it is a handshakes industry. It is. People know each other. Tom and I, Dallas, we've got Dallas actually has been at this longer than even Tom or I, but people have memory. They have institutional memory, and they might change organizations over time, but some people remember that you fucked them over 5 years ago or 17 years ago, and that stuff stays with you. So some of the consultants, some of the people, they don't necessarily know the landscape, and they're like, oh, well, I just left my cushy $200,000 a year lobbying job in Washington, D.C. I should make at least $250,000, and then they charge accordingly as if they have the skill and the experience. Those people never get phone calls from me.
Right. And so as Dallas suggests up here, relationships matter. And there's never too soon to start building relationships.
Right.
And so anything that's happening at your university, there's stuff going on, there might be some professional event going on. Plan to attend it and meet people.
Network.
And network the shit out of it. Take advantage of every opportunity your university can give you to find other opportunities, because you just never know who you're going to talk to.
It's a very insular industry, so network.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Some of that's starting to change a little bit when you got new money coming in, where you have to require to be able to communicate on a bigger picture instead of inside your bubble.
Let's take Veronica's comment a little bit farther. This angel investors versus wrong button. Angel investors versus venture. So there are angels, like, your rich uncle that we all wish was writing check. Tom and I, Sean, we don't have rich uncles anymore, right? So that's not an option for us. Yeah. A kid like you, maybe you have a rich uncle. I hope you do, because that's a lot easier than other options. Most of us don't have that option.
There are angel investor networks, so you
right.
can also go look for those too.
But angels typically don't know what the hell you're talking about, and the amount of education you have to do for an investor to make them understand what you're doing, why you're doing it, and the risks. I got in trouble because I had a document that had 10 pages of risks disclosures, and the state of Washington Department of Financial Institutions determined that I did not have enough risk disclosures. 10 pages was not enough, but there's no metric for that. Right. And so you give this stuff to investors and you're like, well, I think I did my job. And they come back and say they don't. So angels are very tricky and it's very slippery. You might have a great relationship with that particular angel, but your paperwork might be deemed insufficient. Right. So that's a problem. And then because there's so much new money going into the space sector, there are VCs that know space, and there's VCs that think space is cool, but they don't necessarily know it. So relationships matter. Finding the right investor mix matters.
Great. My very last question for all three of you is, in the next 5 years, 25 years, maybe going further on, what do you guys think space and the space market is really going to look like?
Okay, I'll start. I was kind of ready for this. It's short. It's short and sweet. It's pretty. It's I don't go into a lot of detail on it. Right now, AI is to me a huge bubble looking for a pin, and it's going to pop within the next 5 years. That bubble is going to pop. There's going to be a mad scramble to get out of stuff and get into other stuff. And who's going to be making money off of that? Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. They're not. They're gonna. Musk in particular, he will find a way to short that whole deal, even his own, and make money. And he's going to build. And he's going to use that to build his lunar city. I think I'm also predicting in the next 5 years that Michael will get significant funding to get his lunar elevator project started, and so I'm rooting for him all the way. I think that's gonna happen. I really think it does, especially after the AI bubble pops. It's gonna have to go somewhere, and so this is going to be a great opportunity because we're building the lunar stuff. I think in 5 years, we're going to be back on the moon. There's going to be a few dozen people working there, and they're going to be building a major base. Nothing's probably going to happen on Mars yet. We're probably looking closer into the 2030s to see that. But we go out 25 years. Once we get started, that growth is going to be exponential. I think in 25 years, we're going to see 1,000 people living on the moon. Mm-hmm. And some of them might be folks like you and me. I may not be too old if I keep myself healthy. That's our own Doug Plottis said, "Stay healthy, Tom. You can do it. You can do it. 10 years, you can be there. You can be 80. It's okay. Go. It's gravity. Yeah. You'll love it. It'll be great. We'll build one of those big cubic-shaped inflatable habitats, and I'll be in there putting plaster on the walls. Whatever it takes. It'll be whatever I can do. I'm going to try to make that happen before I go." Sean got a hoot out of that. But but in 25 years, there's going to be a lot of people living on the moon, and we will have a Mars base at that point, I think, too. It'll be probably 30, 40 people is all kind of a research base, testing out a lot of technologies and things. The big diaspora will not have happened yet. We're probably looking at closer to 2040 for that in my world. But we're going to be moving out there. There's going to be plenty of funding to do it, and it's going to be plenty of payback too. It's going to be a lot of commercial opportunity is going to be built up as a result of this. And cislunar commerce is going to be a huge thing, maybe even bigger than what we're looking at right now.
Oh, yeah.
A lot bigger.
Yeah.
That's me.
Sean, you want to go?
Yeah. So real quick, I'm more bullish on the cislunar, the return, manufacturing of biotech and chips and material science and the down mass back down to Earth. I am very bullish on that in the next couple of years, next 5 years. But when you look out 25 years, everybody's going to have their own take about going to Mars and the moon, whether it's going to be autonomous or it's going to be mixed or hybrid, which is probably going to be hybrid. I think what I'd like to see in the next 25 years is more of a push towards, instead of defining spaces, we're going to explore this, we're going to explore this, is turn it different parts of space in economic development zones. Instead of just, let's go set up a camp here and research here. Let's really make an effort to make a presence that's permanent wherever we go.
Yeah.
And setting up as an economic development zone, you're ensuring that you're going to have something that comes back, that you're going to create trade. You're going to create a reason why you're going there. To go there to see what's there, it's nice, but it doesn't make you permanent. You go in there to get resources that you're going to use, makes you permanent. And all of us would like us to be permanently in space. If we don't do that, we're going to be still tied to politics, and whether we defund this or we do this or not. So I think that's a very much needed effort that we need to shift towards, is developing an economic development zone.
I in this case, despite my head in the clouds working on the lunar elevator, I'm much more grounded in my predictions. I think it's, Tom said 1,000 people living and working on the moon. I totally back that. I think it actually might be higher than that, but I'm looking at it from an economics perspective. It's taken 25 years for us to move to $650 billion in total revenues from the whole sector, the global sector. But 25 years from now, that number could be 10 times higher. We could seriously be looking at $6 trillion, and that makes it a major economic player in the world. And because that's going to happen, you're going to start getting more resources. Other nations are going to have to pay attention to it. I had a call with some folks today talking about Malta as a space player. I'm like, who the fuck is talking about Malta? But they really are serious about it. Like in the same way Luxembourg was serious 15 years ago, right? There's this movement that is bigger than most people in the world appreciate. And it would not surprise me if we were at a $6 or $7 trillion global cislunar market by that time. So 5 years, our elevator will be functional. 25 years, it'll be a $7 trillion economy. Yeah, that's it. All right.
Answers all around.
Okay, very cool. Joseph Aran, thank you for joining us, and thank you for all your great and penetrating questions. I'll be looking forward to maybe working with you later this summer. You're the summer intern, and nice to meet you. And thank you for being on and being willing to put yourself out there and, talk to 3 old total strangers about, how we do shit. And that was good for our regular viewers too. They got to see a part of us that they never get to see. And so we thank you for your help on that. And we'll be seeing you again real soon.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I look forward to working with you all this summer.
Great. Okay, guys. On Thursday, Mark Levinson, author of The Box, again returns to the show to see just what he has wrought in the area of space shipping containers, something he never expected would happen, but we all have a lot to say about it. It's going to be a lot of fun. And that'll be, of course, 8 p.m. Eastern. For Sean Key and Michael Lane, I remain Thomas Andrew Olson. Keep watching the skies. I'm telling you.